Hey, what's going on, guys? Appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. I wanted to do this because I hate the long form production with current events and trying to do all this producing in studio. I like the idea of turning my camera around and talking about important issues. And so I started this channel, the stories account, to be able to do this. So a couple things. Yesterday, the Houthis, over 16 targets were specifically struck by U.S. and U.K. warships. There was a reasonable expectation that this was going to happen, given their behavior of targeting dozens of commercial vessels, including carriers, and literally saying on TV, we are going to strike and attack and continue to strike and attack American interest, including U.S. carriers, because of their involvement in Israel. So this is a very volatile situation region-wise, which I'll talk about. But also, I put out a couple of tweets talking about the impacts and effect and how you should be prepared. I think you guys know by now, I own a preparedness company. One, let me state clearly that I have nothing to sell you. This is about me doing and afforded the opportunities from my company doing what I love and enjoy. I don't have sponsors. I literally, at this point, for podcasts, including Mike Glover Actual, besides the partnerships that we have with companies that we do things together, like Montana Knife, where we make knives together, have no obligations to advertisers. I do it because I'm afforded the opportunity to do it, and I enjoy doing it. I did it in my military career as a strategist and tactician in special operations, and certainly at the tail end of my career as a team sergeant and a sergeant major. And I also did it personally for the last 8 years with Fieldcraft Survival. So I don't think you need to be prepared for the war with Iran, because Iran is not the biggest threat to you. I mean, Iran geographically, the capital of Iran, Tehran, is in the middle of the mountains, really isolated. One, I'll say, I have several friends that are Iranian, that are Persian. They wouldn't say they're Iranian, they're Persian. And the Persian people are, the people of Iran are amazing people. From all the things that I've gathered from my personal experiences and people I know. Beautiful, amazing people. Now, they belong to a regime that is hell-bent on affecting the world with its ideology by using proxy action arms to target American and Western interests. That includes the Houthis, Hezbollah, Muqtada al-Sadr's Mahdi militia, and certainly Hamas. Now, in this area of the world, we have a lot of things that we affect. We have a lot of strategies that are being executed and implemented every day because of the war on the global war on terror. I mean, the declared war on terror. It's also wrapped up into global pursuit and countering terrorism by being proactive. That's Syria, Iraq, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, the list goes on. Guys, I lived in Yemen for 1.5 years of my life, off and on rotation, and saw that place completely fall apart because of not our involvement, because of the volatility of the circumstance, the sectarian wars, the civil wars. The Houthis in their civil war killed hundreds of thousands of civilians. It's a massive humanitarian crisis that's not often talked about. My problem, and the reason why I'm telling you to be prepared, not for Iran, but all the fallout, is how we're not paying attention to our own country. I did a short form version of this on my Instagram. I just want to do this because I want to talk through some of the things that I think are going to happen in the near future. So one, today, the Houthis released a statement saying they would not settle for this attack that took place, according to them, their attack on their installations and their infrastructure. They will retaliate. So there's that. Now, do we have to be scared about what the Houthis are going to do to American citizens on American soil? No. But like I said, we have many Americans, including service members, government contractors, all over the entire region of this area. And certainly, this is not a campaign against Houthis. It's not a campaign against Hezbollah or Hamas specifically. It is a campaign against an ideology that wants to see, like the Israelis from the river to the sea, completely annihilated. And genocide is literally that thing they want from us, for us. So they hate us. So this is just another, say, chink in their armor that gives them all the validation and affirmation they need to conduct more strikes, more attacks, get their young youth that they've brainwashed to stand up against the Western foreign superpowers and go after us, attack us. So you're going to see more, and you're going to see American service members die because of that. Now, the obvious question is, Mike, what's the alternative? Well, diplomacy is not part of any of this strategy. So, like, man, taking it back a little bit, I'd never thought I'd be saying this out loud on any platform. I am not a fan of war. I understand why specifically bad guys need to die, especially with radical ideology where they think they need to kill you because of your beliefs. I understand that. I'm intimately involved in the global war on terror from its inception as an E5 sergeant in the Army till I got out as a sergeant major. I'm very familiar with that. What I'm saying is, if you have no foreign policy strategies and diplomacy to bridge gaps, build relationships, then you have a failing strategy thinking you could bomb yourself out of a problem, because you can't. I knew it standing on target over bad guys while I'm looking at their sons, their wives, their brothers. Look at us behind the green and black contrast of our night vision goggles and ambient light, likely looking like we are monsters or the evil characters they've been told about in the Quran and whatever ideology they were propagandized in. And so it's part of my experience. And something always felt wrong about that. Like, something always felt wrong going, so we're involved in a war of attrition where we kill and capture bad guys, but there's not a broader strategy here. We're now 15 years, 20 years into this. Nothing has changed. And I'm seeing, like, Americans who served as soldiers are seeing their sons serve on the same battlefield. We're seeing the same thing translate through the enemy, where a successor steps up. We combat that successor, and then a decade into your rotations, you see the son of that successor now stepping up in his father's place. It's like, what are we doing? So when we don't have a specific foreign policy plan because of incompetence, because of the disinterest, especially of Biden, to be involved in these conversations and to stand on a platform and say more than 2 minutes of coherent sentences that have to do about the complexity of this, and both educating the American people and also bridging those gaps in those relationships, we are failed. We have failed as a nation. We have failed as a government, and we are doomed to fail, right? And so that makes more fragile circumstances for the citizens of this country. Because the analogy I used yesterday, if you decide to go on vacation and you don't let your neighbors know, you don't let family members know, to feed the dog, mow the lawn, do all the things, the longer you are gone, the more things start degrading because your attention is elsewhere. Your priorities are elsewhere. Ukraine, now Israel, the foreign campaign, and all the things that we're potentially faced and foreign adversaries across the region. We are, and potentially the war that we would potentially fight with Iran, adding more to it. I mean, we're already invested in Iraq. We're targeting and doing everything by, with, and through in Iraq. Where does that leave us as citizens? Where does it leave us economically? Has anybody even talked about the border when it comes to all these things we're facing? No, they haven't, because 75% of the population, as polled, say the border's an issue. But what are we doing about it? Zero. I was on the border with Sheriff Mark Lamb. We did absolutely nothing since then, when you had a record-breaking month. The Homeland Security Secretary is literally still on the job when he has proven over the course of time his failing to do the right thing, including change policy that enacts change, because they don't want to have Trump-affiliated policy. So what are we doing about it? Absolutely zero. So who's left? Who's left holding the can of worms? We are. And we have to remember that. So when the institutions eventually break because they're fracturing right now, you're going to have to pick up the pieces on your own. So when I say prepare, I don't mean prepare for war. I mean prepare to take in and build your own self-reliance and campaigning for yourself and your family and your community. Because the federal government support that you used to get when they literally can't do their job, or government employees walk off the job, or we're spread so thin we can't do the job, which is likely a combination of all those things, then we are left in our own way to pick up the pieces. So you should be building those mechanisms in the first place, because the umbilical cord you should always be looking to cut. So it's one of the reasons I started American Contingency as a group forum. It's AmericanContingency.com. I'm actually meeting with 7 of the directors tonight in town, some of the regional directors, because it's not me who's going to lead you into being better prepared. It's you who has to lead your own families and community to be better prepared. But you need to do something. And I'm professing this because several times with civil unrest in this country, with the pandemic, with all of these things that I talked about in advance, I say afterwards, I told you so to the people who refuse to listen. Arrogance and ignorance are the 2 main components that disable people's ability to do the right thing. At the end of the day, I don't even care. If you don't want to do the right thing for yourself by being proactive in preparedness, and I'm not saying this is like, come train with Fieldcraft Survival. I'm saying do your best to look into this field of being better prepared and self-sufficient, and do that. Because all of the things that I analyzed over the course of my career, I'm seeing, and it looks like it's going to fall apart. How that falls apart, I couldn't tell you. I could illustrate some things that I think about, but I want you to be proactive, and I want you to be self-reliant and less reliant on a broken system. Our government is more broke than we've ever seen it. I mean, the country is more broke than we've ever seen it, with trillions of dollars of debt, a recession. We're in an active recession. The housing market, jobs, all of the things we are seriously dealing with right now, while our interests are elsewhere. That's all I'm saying. How best to start? Well, like I talk with Jocko on a Mike Force podcast, I'll take his recommendation. The best way to start is start thinking about it. So what does that include? Having conversations with people you love. Like, think about it. Are you prepared? What happens if the grocery store doesn't have the supply? What happens if you don't have access to gas for your vehicles? What happens if your power goes out for an extended period of time? What happens if civil unrest pours into your neighborhood? What happens if crime pours into your neighborhood because all the stats says it is? Then what are you going to do about it? That's what I mean in being best prepared. Look, if you're standing on a street corner somewhere with an AR, we've already bypassed that point. I don't even need to talk about it. We have a lot of time invested where we can get this set up for at least us and our families to protect our communities if shit hits the fan. That's all I'm saying. Guys, I appreciate you. Really excited about 2024 as far as all the activations that we focus on in preparedness is concerned. Not so excited about the direction of our country. My last bit of offering to you via my advice. Here's what I think is going to happen next. American service members are going to be attacked because they're going to be targeted, and they're going to escalate. That further escalation will be us retaliating against very specific targets, even including in Iran. I wouldn't put it past us to be able to actually have to do that. And then you're talking about a global campaign. We're talking about a very different set of circumstances, and we're talking about a very volatile circumstance here leading up into the elections. We're 300 days out. Be prepared for that. Thanks, guys.